Hey there, it's BoardGameDave. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Today we're going to take a look at my top 10 new to me board games of this past year. So in 2024 so far, I played 138 different games, over half of which I was playing for the first time this year. So I went through my list of 72 new to me board games and found like the 14 that I thought would be contenders for my favorite new games. And then I took those games, put them into pubmeeple.com, which is a phenomenal ranking engine, did a whole bunch of comparisons, and it popped out my top 10 new to me games of 2024. But before we jump right in, I've got 5 really quick honorable mentions, and they are Luthier, Mythwind, Far Away, Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth, and Divinus, which are all great games in their own right, but just didn't make the top 10. All right, here we go. Now, I do have to use Board Game Geek for this today because I only own one of the games on today's list, but number 10 is Explorers of Navoria. So this is a very, very new game. It's beautiful. The art and the colors immediately kind of captivated me here. It's a really whimsical art style and theme, but you are these actually, I don't really know too much about the theme, but you're these kind of mythical creatures, and you're basically vying for control of these different areas of the map. So if you take a look here, you're going to draft tokens or draw tokens from a bag, use those tokens to draft cards from over here, and then later in the game, you'll move those tokens to the town area to get different resources. Those are going to go on your player board, and as you load up these spaces with resources, you can put your buildings out on these little paths and move your explorer along and all these different things. And there's like combat, battling swords and things. It's, again, thematically, I'm actually not really positive what we're doing, but mechanically, there's so many really curious, unique, interesting mechanisms. And I think I was most impressed with how seamlessly they all blend together and how quick the gameplay is. I mean, it's very, very fast. There's no, waiting around. There's really not a lot of downtime. So it's a fantastic little game. And there's some expansion stuff you can add into it as well. So the second time we played, we added some of those new elements and it was fantastic. So number 10, Explorers of Navoria. Number 9 is Middle Ages, another very new game from Marc Andre of Splendor fame. Now, Splendor is still the most played game in my collection, so I already went into this knowing I was probably going to like this game. What this game does, which is really interesting, it takes the basic tile drafting mechanism from King Domino and basically bakes it into a much more meatier, thinkier Euro game. But essentially, if I can very quickly explain the mechanism here, is all the tiles in the game are numbered, okay? And when you put them out for drafting, you put them in ascending order. And the lower value tiles are not that great, but they let you go sooner in turn order. And the higher value tiles are really lucrative and really nice, but then you go later in turn order. That's the basic juicy piece of this game. So anyway, that's what's in King Domino, and again, it's borrowed here in Middle Ages. So you've got all these wonderful tiles. There's, I think, 8 different types. So there's chapels and farms and mills and banks or something like that, and they each do something different when you draft them. So it's got this wonderful engine building thing, and it's very interactive because you can tax other people for their coins. You can attack other people's little estates and make them basically destroy their buildings. You can build defenses if you don't want that to happen to you. You got these barracks here. And yeah, you're just basically trying to get coins, which are the points. So you're spending coins to get buildings. No, you just draft them. But yeah, you earn coins in various ways throughout the game. I got to play it at PAX with some friends, and it was really, really fun. It, again, goes pretty quick. A lot of player interaction. And that is Middle Ages. It's also beautiful. Love the art. It's very, very pretty. So there you go. Great tactile puzzly pieces. This is really nice, by the way. Each building type has a different shape, so you can't mess up where you put them. And once you start getting a whole bunch of buildings, they all lock together, which is really satisfying. So anyway, that's Middle Ages. Number 9, awesome game. Number 8 is Endeavor Deep Sea, which is another 2024 game. Now, this is a re-implementation kind of Endeavor Age of Sail, which is a phenomenal game that I have in my collection. But I have to say this game was refreshingly very different from Age of Sail. I mean, lots of new ideas. First of all, the board gets gradually revealed as you explore deeper and deeper. So thematically, we're kind of like nautical research people, and we're taking our submarines and traveling around and rescuing turtles here and doing more, I think, research over here and publishing journals and, developing new research methodologies and technologies out here and getting DNA along the way. excuse me, as well. But essentially, it takes the same core mechanisms of Endeavor Age of Sail, which is an action selection thing. So you've got these tiles in front of you, and on your turn, you're going to take a disc and put it in a corresponding slot to take that action. And of course, throughout the course of the game, you're going to be adding more tiles that give you stronger versions of those actions, or just more chances, opportunities to activate those different actions. And yeah, you take your submarine, travel around, exploring, getting these little benefit tokens and publishing papers on deep water satellite imaging and things. And it's very interactive, really fun. It's got all the great elements of Age of Sail, but in a completely new format. So there's also, by the way, these little scenarios that you can add. So they start with the introductory scenario, and then there's a lot more to explore. So a lot of replayability. So anyway, I guess it's not a re-implementation, is it? It's a follow-up. So yeah, it's a different game, I guess. It's not a reprint. It's a different game in the same Endeavor universe, I suppose. But anyway, that's number 8. Number 7 is Distilled. Now, this game came out last year, but I just had a chance to play it recently, and it was really, really fun. So in this game, you run a distillery, and you're trying to make better and better high-end liquors, basically. So over here, you've got your sort of hierarchy. So you've got kind of like the cheap vodka and this other thing up here. Throughout the course of the game, though, as you get better ingredients and better upgrades to your distillery and maybe some assistance to help you out, you're going to be able to make gins and whiskeys and rums. And I forget what this is, but there's brandy down here as well. And all these different sorts of liquors to get you more profit, more money, more prestige, and all those sorts of things. Now, there's a really interesting element where the core mechanism is almost like a deck building thing where you're going to be buying these cards during like the market phase and putting them into your hand. So you've got ingredients up here, you've got different kinds of bottles, fancy bottles you can put the liquors in, and that's going to go into your hand. And I might not be completely remembering this correctly, but when you do like the brew phase, that's not the right word, distilling phase, you shuffle up your deck and they're going to reveal these ingredients one by one, and eventually the cards that you draw are going to determine the kind of liquor that you can make, the kind of alcohol you can make that turn. And sometimes it goes well and you can make some really high-end stuff, and sometimes you kind of bust basically and you have to make some really cheap vodkas. Basically the mechanism. Now, of course, there's ways to mitigate all that, obviously, but yeah, it's really great. Oh, I forgot too. You always start as playing as one of these characters and they all have asymmetric powers. So that's interesting to explore as well. But yeah, it's great presentation, great components, super solid game. It's very, very fun. It keeps you guessing. And that's Distilled. Number 6 is The White Castle from Devier Games. Now, this is another one of those Euro games packed in a very small, compact box, but it's got some big Euro game elements to it. So in The White Castle, you are set in like, I think, Meiji era Japan, and you are doing sort of Japanese-inspired things surrounding this castle. So essentially, it's a dice drafting game, and you're also doing some worker placement here as well, if I remember correctly. And you're going to be placing your workers on this beautiful board. So you'll have gardeners that are sort of tending the gardens and the ponds over here. You've got courtiers that are going to be working their way up the castle, kind of, vying for favor with the nobility. And then out here, you're going to have warriors that are doing training out there as well. Let me see if I can find a better picture of that. But here we go. So you've got the dice placement, you've got the worker placement, you've got, I'm trying to remember, I think it's like area majority over here, and then you've got, again, that climbing up the prestige track over here, basically, with your courtiers, and then I think this is area majority over here with your warriors as well. But the most intriguing and fascinating part of this game is that you only take 9 turns for the whole game, right? You don't get extra turns. You draft, I think, 9 dice. There's 3 rounds of 3 turns each, and that's it. So it is a very compact and quick, tight game. You cannot be making mistakes. Every decision really matters a lot, but it is so interesting, so fascinating. It's a very unique feeling sort of game, even though the mechanics overall are fairly familiar, but it's got some really neat twists on a familiar type of game. So White Castle, phenomenal. I've only played it once. I'd love to play it again. And I'd love to try Euro. I'd love to try it solo, but I'd have to borrow from my friend Gary. So anyway, that's The White Castle. It's lovely. It's beautiful as well. The art and the iconography are just lovely. So yeah. And it seems a little bit intimidating, but it's a really quick teach. And the icons really are intuitive once you sort of understand the way the game flows. So anyway, awesome game, White Castle from Devier Games. Number 5 is a game called Fromage, which is French for cheese. And in this game, you are cheese makers in the early 20th century, and you're making, aging, and selling your artisanal cheeses. But the most fascinating part about this game is the way you put out your workers. So let me explain this because it is such an amazing and thematic and just, oh, I love it so much. So you've got 3 workers. That's it, okay? And you're going to put them out on this main game board, which is on a Lazy Susan, and it's going to be pivoting each round. So let me show you here. You'll notice that where you put your workers, there aren't any workers here, but your workers are those triangle shapes. They're going to go out on these spots, and you can only place them in the quadrant that's in front of you. But here's the twist. Each round, the board's going to rotate 90 degrees clockwise, and you're only going to get back the workers that are facing you at the beginning of the round, which means, okay, follow with me here. If I put a worker on this cheese right here, it's facing to the right. When that pivots 90 degrees, it's going to be facing me. So the next round, I get that worker back. But if I put my worker on a space that's facing left, right, it's going to have to pivot, here's left, 1, 2, and 3 rounds before it comes back to me. So there's this wonderful sense of, aging the cheese, which is what's happening thematically, but also that like delayed gratification thing or time investment where, you want to go for those lucrative, really juicy spots, but they're going to face left because it's an investment to, take those spots. Anyway, so that's the most fascinating part of this game. But also, you'll notice each of these quadrants, it's like its own little mini game. So there's area majority going on over here. There's orthogonal adjacencies you're trying to work on over here. You are going for like columns and rows, I think, in this area. And then over here, you're just trying to get cheese in different shelves. I mean, it's so interesting. And each little cheese marker has player colors. So at the end of the game, you go through and score all of your cheeses based on those 4 little mini games. And it is so creative and clever, and it does not take a very long time. The game goes really quickly. In addition to that, you also have your player board where you're going to be able to build upgrades like the brining room and the mold cave and cheese trolley, and you're going to draft these at the beginning of each game. So each game you've got completely different, unique, buildings to build, and that's going to change your engine completely. So, and then you put your cows here, and you put your berries and jams here. You're going to infuse into your cheese. It is just so clever. It's so great. I really enjoy Fromage. I've only played it once, but I'm really eager to play it again. I almost bought it at PAX actually, but it's really great. I love Fromage. Awesome game. Number 4 is a bit of a strange one because it is a game I've played before, and it's Castles of Burgundy, which I've got right here. Now, I'm very familiar with the game. I've played it a ton, but this is the special edition that came out last year. It's beautiful. If you're familiar with this special edition at all, it's this enormous box, and they've got these unbelievably nice components. So everything's like gorgeous, 3D printed or resin printed, I'm not sure. Acrylic tiles, and depending on the kind you get these gorgeous landmark looking things here. And the tiles every single tile is like super thick, chunky, again, plastic or resin, I'm not sure. And then look at this. Someone's got these painted, looks like buildings here. Holy smokes. Yeah, it's just gorgeous. So I got to play this with Alex from Board Game Co. and a few other people at Level Up Retreat, which we'll talk about in a second. And it was just amazing. And a lot of people wanted to play this game because it was kind of in the free-to-play area, I guess. So people could just basically play it on their own time. But look at this. You've got this gorgeous board. You've got all the different, look at this, livestock, animals, the boats, the different types of mines and markets and all that stuff. And then the monasteries here. It's so next level. And I think genuinely, if I was playing regular Castles of Burgundy, it would not have made it onto this list, but because of the insane overproduction, it's just so satisfying to play. It's got the metal coins, it's got these chunky pieces. We also played with the Vineyard expansion here, which was really interesting. So the fact that it comes with a lot of different modular elements is really awesome. So anyway, it's Castle of Burgundy, familiar game, but boy, this is just so next level. Would I ever spend my money to buy this? No. But do I really enjoy playing other people's copies of this? I absolutely do. It's a little too much, but it is amazing. All right, we're down to the top 3, and number 3 is La Granja Deluxe Master Set. So here we go again with a deluxe overproduced version of an older game. This is a 2014 game originally, but it is beautiful. So again, we've got the big box, we've got the insanely upgraded components, we've got the completely revamped artwork and graphic design, I think. This one, though, I've never played the original La Granja, so this was totally new to me, but it is a brilliant game, and how innovative and interesting the mechanisms are, it definitely holds up in 2024, 10 years after it was originally released. So I'll just briefly hit on some of those core elements. Number one is the multi-use cards, which I always find fascinating in any game, but this game does it to the next level. So each card, trying to find an example, can be used in 4 different ways, which is amazing. So there's one that's going to be a persistent ability on your turns. One is maybe an immediate benefit, one is an income benefit, and then the other one I think is to be used as a farm. Yeah, here we go. So there's 4 different ways you can tuck this card into your board, which is amazing. And yeah, so that is already one of the coolest elements of the game. Second is the dice drafting, which I always really like in games. So at the beginning of each round, you draft or you roll a bunch of dice and you put them in the corresponding slots. And then on your turn, you're going to draft one of those dice and take the corresponding things, a pig, some coins, basic goods. And you're basically working to upgrade and expand your little farmland. So growing crops here, completing contracts here, resting, taking a siesta, which is great, using your donkeys. Sorry about that. So you can take some naps, siestas as well. That's going to change your turn order. You can use your donkeys to deliver those goods to the market to fulfill contracts. It's brilliant. There's so many different marketplaces that you're kind of vying for to unlock them that give you other benefits. There's, of course, engine building to make your whole system more efficient. And it is just amazing. It's been a while since we played it, but I really liked it. And just like Castles of Burgundy, this game comes with a ton of different modules that I think you can just add willy-nilly, and they each add some sort of unique element, mechanism, gameplay twist, and it's awesome. I really, really love this game. Designed by, I actually don't know who it's designed by, but it's amazing. Designer is Andreas Odendahl and Michael Keller, which is not familiar names to me, but anyway, it's amazing. I love La Granja. It's beautiful. Gorgeous, amazing game. Number 2 is my favorite game that I played at PAX Unplugged this year, probably by far, and one of only 2 games that I bought while I was there, and it is Black Forest from Uwe Rosenberg. Was there ever any surprise? So this is an amazing sequel to another amazing game that was in my top 10 games of all time, which is called Glass Road. And what Uwe Rosenberg does is he takes those familiar production wheel elements, which I can explain briefly. I'm not going to explain it. It's a little complicated, but it's such a unique and curious way of resource managing your resources to convert them into glass and bricks in the original game. But anyway, so he takes that dual wheel concept and kind of re-envisions the game. And instead of doing unique card play, which is what you're doing in Glass Road, which you have to kind of predict what other players are going to do and kind of outmaneuver, outwit your opponents. In this game, Uwe gets rid of the cards and instead goes for a worker placement on the map, which is really, really well done. It's very, very interesting and intriguing. By the way, there is a co-designer, Tito Lorenz, who I'm not familiar with, but anyway, that's what's happening in Black Forest. So let me show you some better pictures. So here is the resource wheel. As you gain these resources, you'll be making glass. In this case, this is a village location, but they didn't flip the locations over yet. Let me show you the map really quick. It is, by the way, an enormous, huge table hog. And when we were at PAX playing on the foldable tables, it was really, really hard to get everything on the table, but we made it work. Now, in the game, you're going to be looking at, I forget how many exactly, like, I don't know, 45, 50 different buildings, and they're all available. There's no refilling the market. They're just all there for the whole game. And that can be a little bit overwhelming. You got buildings here, you got buildings over there, you've got buildings over here. So one thing I will say about the game is that it's very almost too open-ended. So if you don't like too many options, like a feast for Odin, right? That might get a little bit overwhelming, but once you sort of know what you're going for, you have a strategy in mind, it really plays very smoothly. Essentially on your turn, all you're gonna do is take your little worker and move them to a different spot, maybe a different spot in the same village, maybe hopping over to a different village, and you'll pay travel costs as you do. And then you'll visit a townsperson and take a benefit, like get a pig or pay 3 brick to upgrade your glassworks 2 times, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of familiar elements from Glass Road, but so many interesting quirks. And again, that spatial game of, optimizing your routes. And by the way, you can also swap those townspeople around. So you can sort of customize the map to manipulate it to your own ends, which is so clever. So this is instantly shooting up into my top 10 board games of all time. But curiously, it's only number 2 of the top 10 new to me games. So what's number 1? Number 1 is a game called Galactic Cruise from Kinson Key Games. Now, I only got to play this because they sent me a basically finished prototype copy, and I have been raving about this game ever since. And it was genuinely, truly the best new game that I played in 2024. It was just phenomenal. So here's the board. Here's some of the art by Ian O'Toole, by the way, one of my favorite artists. It's amazing that they were able to score such a huge board game artist for their first game, by the way. It's 3 friends that made this game their first game ever, I think. And it's just brilliant. So I think what makes this shoot up to the number 1 spot, there's a few reasons, but number 1 is it is so much fun. It's thematic. It's great. You're running this space exploration, space tourism company. And throughout the course of the game, you're going to be building rockets. And each rocket section has something fun, like a burger bar or like paintball or laser tag or whatever. And you're going to have different sorts of clients or customers that are going to be family oriented or adventure oriented or relaxation oriented. So you want to cater to those different types of visitors, and there's a whole advertising element of the game, so you're going to sort of build up hype for your rocket, and then you send them out, and then each rocket's going to go on a different sort of itinerary, visiting different locations, and you're going to get some benefits as you stop at those places, so reputation or money or resources or whatever. And you have to manage, of course, your water and provisions and fuel, I think it is. It's just amazing. And the core mechanism is worker placement. So on your turn, you put your worker out onto the board. Actually, it's very similar to Black Forest in that you're going to be kind of hopping around with other workers, and you have to pay other workers if they're already on the spot, I think. But anyway, yeah, it's fantastic. And throughout the course of the game, you're also putting these gears down that represent different technologies that are going to link these different locations for you. Here's the blueprints. You turn them into finished pieces of the rocket. There's objectives to achieve over here. It's just fun, and it's really thematic. And it is, by the way, a very heavy game. I mean, it was probably like an hour teach when I first taught it to a bunch of friends. So, don't be deceived. It is very heavy. It's a very weighty, complex game, but it's intuitive because it's thematic, and everything that you do just feels very natural, and it just makes sense, which is awesome. It's a very intuitive game. So they knocked it out of the park. I love Galactic Cruise. We saw it a bunch at PAX. People were talking about it, and I was like, yes, it is an amazing game. It's coming out next year. I cannot wait for my copy. Another reason why I think it's so high on my list is because they sent me the prototype. I played it a whole bunch, played it with friends, played it solo, and then I had to send it back. So I think that FOMO of not having it, but really wanting to play it, makes me take it up to number 1 because I just haven't been able to explore it as much as I want to, and I just can't wait to get it back to the table. So anyway, Galactic Cruise is amazing. I wanted to say something else about it, I thought, but I don't remember what it is. It's coming out next year. The weight, 3.91. So yeah, definitely heavier side. It's going to be a long game. There's no, there's no way to avoid it. It's a long game, but it's really, really good and fun the whole way through. So there you go, folks. Those are my top 10 new to me games of 2024. A whole bunch of bright, shiny, hyped new games, as well as some fantastic older games that are re-implemented, re-beautified, re-deluxified for the modern era, and I love them all. So if you have any comments or questions about any of the games I mentioned today, please let me know in the comments. I'll definitely 100% get back to you. Next week, by the way, I'll be doing my 2024 Wrapped. So I'll be talking about how many plays I logged this past year, the games that I played the most times, and the games that I spent the most time with. And by the way, Galactic Cruise is in my top 5 games I spent the most time playing of this past year. So stay tuned for that. I'm very excited to kind of go back over my stats using BG Stats and talk about some of those games I played the absolute most this past year. A lot of surprises on that list. So subscribe if you are not subscribed already. And I apologize for talking so quickly. We're actually leaving to go spend the holidays with my wife's family, and I need to get packing. So I'm trying to finish this video as quickly as possible. So anyway, I appreciate you for sticking around and watching the video, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care, happy gaming, have a wonderful New Year's, and I'll see you very soon. All right, take care, bye. Hey there, it's BoardGameDave. Nolly's barking. Nolly, come here.